If you have ever felt stuck in your life, whether that's facing a plateau at the gym, being unable to overcome certain vices or negative patterns of behavior, this video is for you. I want to teach you today about positive brainwashing. These are the tools and the methods that we can use to influence our subconscious mind to change our entire reality in order to transform and grow and get all the things that we deserve in our life. Our subconscious mind rules anywhere from 90 to 95% of all of our brain activity. It essentially is a filter for the way that you see the world. When people talk about our internal realities and how they affect the outer world, a lot of people say your frequency is what you frequently see. Now, frequency, we can get into talk about the metaphysics of vibrations, but what I want you to think about instead is, more of this term frequently. Frequently, what you frequently see can really just be summed up with frequency repetition, right? So when we want to change what's going on in our outer world, we can do that by changing what is frequently happening in our inner world. As within, so without. So when we do this, we want to start to consider what's actually going into our subconscious. These are sights, sounds, emotions, music, the people and attitudes that are around you, your living space, what you look at on the background of your phone every day, what you come home to and if you watch Netflix or you read instead. It's all of these things that add up day after day after day after day. So this is why discipline and having intentionality with your day is so important, is because we are crafting our subconscious through our behaviors. Something that I have instituted over the past year has been a daily cold plunge. One of the reasons for that is every day I start my day with a good, easy victory out the gate. I never want to get in that cold plunge. I always hesitate for a second before I get in, but every single morning I check the box of, I don't want to do this, I'm getting in, and then I get out and I say, wow, I'm so glad that I did that. And now I've done that over 300 times. So I'm just adding a layer in over and over and over again of I can do things that I don't want to do. If you're somebody that has a problem with sloth, of being lazy, that can be a pretty powerful tool. I was never somebody who was, I'm not gonna say a neat freak, but I certainly am somebody who could have taken better care of my living space. It was never super dirty, but it wouldn't be exactly the cleanest, most picked up place in the world. But because I have had this pattern over and over and over again of doing things that I don't want to do, I am able to show up more in little things like taking care of the laundry as soon as it's done, washing my dishes as soon as I'm done, leaving a clean household, washing my sheets, making the bed. We're looking to create a ripple effect of things throughout the rest of our lives with little patterns and behaviors. Another very powerful one that we can use is music and sounds, or audiobooks, if you will. Our subconscious is driven by all of these inputs all of the time. So I want you to think, what are you hearing and taking in when you're driving to work or you're at the gym? And where's some time in your day that you can put in a better, more constructive message that will just repeat over and over and over again? Could be podcasts, it could be music like Akira the Don. If you're not familiar, he takes podcasts and puts them over music, so it's very nice to hear and listen to, and you get a lot of positive messages that's just digging into your brain over and over and over again. Now, when you hear those words, you just start to resonate with them at a deeper level. If you've ever known somebody that was a victim of abuse, like they think certain things about themselves, unfortunately, because they had a parent or a loved one that told them like you are not worthy or you are terrible or something like that. So, they start to actually embody that and become a shell of their former self because they kept getting that repeated message. But on the other hand, if you do things for yourself that say you are powerful, you are capable, you can get anything that you want if you work for it, if you keep hearing that over and over and over again, then you're going to slowly start to believe it. Beliefs, again, are in our subconscious, our internal beliefs. So you may not understand why your reality is the way that it is. And I think a lot of people make mistakes with spending too much time trying to really dig deep and get to the bottom of these answers, when the reality is that we can just replace them with our daily habits and behaviors. This is why people go to therapy for years and years and years and years and years, and they never really seem to fix themselves. Or, in my world, I've been to a handful of, retreats for men that help them overcome their, personal problems. And these retreats are amazing. And by the time the weekend is done, we are all feeling absolutely incredible. But then at the end of the day, when we're done, you have to go and do the work that's going to allow you to stay in that nice high level of emotion. So we can't get caught in just like the feelings of talking it out. We have to get caught up in the feeling of self-belief that we are worthy and capable, and then applying that to action. Emotion is really important to use in all of this. Because as we start to slowly transform our thought processes and put these positive words, imageries, and beliefs into ourselves, we just have to be very careful that we're not, for lack of a better term, mentally masturbating and just dreaming and fantasizing about achievement. Because what will happen then is we'll get to a point to where we just think, yes, I can, yes, I can, yes, I can. And if you're not taking any action, it's going to lead to a complete, utter, total derailment. And you're going to sit there and wonder, well, why the hell, what's going on? Like, I don't understand. I've been listening to Tony Robbins. I've been, meditating. But you have to take the action that's applied with that. So at some level, we have to find a balance of this really good, high, positive self-love emotion, but also a little bit of detachment so that we can just show up and do the things over and over and over again and create that repetition so that we are frequently being this better person to change our frequency, to elevate our subconscious and therefore transform our whole reality. We can stack mountains of victories in our mind that make it impossible for us to ever fall back on our old patterns and behaviors. And if I was just going to drop one pebble on the ground that doesn't leave any sort of mark whatsoever, but if I had 100,000 pebbles, we can build this thing up to a big, big, big mountain. So think about all these little things you can do where we're building that mountain. But let's also not get overwhelmed with having to do everything all at once. The reason a lot of people fall off their path and their journey, even though they have a ton of positive momentum, is because they put the pressure on themselves to have to do everything all at once. This is a battle that people have sometimes with wanting to be optimal versus just deciding to be sustainable. Some of these retreats that I've gone to, people talk about wow, I'm ready to transform. I'm ready to change my life. I'm going to meditate every single day. I'm going to read 30 pages every day. And the reality is we have tough lives, man. We all do. Things are very challenging, and it's going to be extremely hard to just do these things every single day. However, when we're thinking about the long-term view, if we were just going to meditate 10 minutes 3 times per week, if we were to do that over now a year, 52 weeks, only 3 times a week, 10 minutes a day, then we would have over 26 hours of meditation in a year. Just think about right now, if I were to tell you, what do you think 26 hours of meditation would do for you? Start thinking about all the positives. So remember that we don't need to put the pressure on ourselves to have to be perfect every day. We just have to take one step forward. If we're not taking steps forward, we are taking steps back. So by doing things such as creating a floor, which is a minimum of achievement and requirement for ourselves, we can make sure that we're staying on the path without overwhelming ourselves. So think about those things. I really like meditation just because this is something that I've used a lot with my own personal clients. Many people talk to me and say that they want to implement this. And that has always been my first recommendation. 3 times a week, 10 minutes a day. You are lying to me if you say that you cannot do that. That's enough of a small time window that you definitely have room to do that. But also, that's a low enough commitment to where you could have the busiest week of your entire life and still get it done and build positive momentum. But here's the thing. When we build up momentum, you're going to start finding times where you're saying, okay, I would like to go 15 minutes today. You know what? I think I'm going to add a 4th day this week, maybe a 5th day. So anytime you can just get a bonus, it's a good, natural, positive dopamine rush that will make you feel good in a realistic, real way to boost your momentum even more. But, you don't have to. So no big deal. Then you don't have the pressure of, oh man, I have to do this again today, And that's another thing with time. You can't just jump in and say, I'm going to do this for 30 minutes. That can be a big, big task for a lot of people, but 10 minutes, no problem. So if you want to read more, you want to pick up a new skill, how can you chip away at these things to make sure that you are building a path for the long road to mastery instead of the short term to big wave of intensity and then a crash and burnout? So we've talked about a little bit / a lot of things in this, but really the path to positive brainwashing comes in using a variety of tools. The first is just being aware of your inputs and your daily repetitive actions. That's really the biggest one. But why are we doing any of this? We need to know where our end destination is. So we always have to figure out what our goals and our dreams and our ultimate preferred life is. And we can do this through various things such as journaling, having affirmations, vision boards, mantras. There's all sorts of things. There's not one particular thing that works for one person or another. So when you hear somebody say, this is the way, it might not be for you, but it's worth trying out and investigating. With things like mantras, I have used those really situationally. Some people will tell you to wake up and write down in your journal what you want 10 times every single day. But where I find the power of mantras is certain scenarios where my mind needs to be in a certain state, and I will instead use a sentence or a certain set of words to get me to focus in on the right thing. Flipping perspectives. One important tool that you can do to positively brainwash yourself is flip your perspective. In strongman, we all want to get stronger, and we may not be a champion, but by putting a different spin on your position, you empower yourself to become a better, stronger person. So I'm not going to say about myself, I'm not winning or I'm not strong enough, I say I'm getting stronger. I talk about this in some of my videos. Feel free to use this one. I say nobody is making progress faster than me. Nobody is making progress faster than me. It's not about anybody else. It's about these words that empower me, that allow me to think that's right. Now, what are the actions and the habits that are going to make that sentence true? Then I figure that out, I write them down, and then I just show up and do it. Sleep, eat, train, manage your stress. That's it. But anyways, we do want on some level a little bit of meditation, because what we need to do is provide space to shake the cobwebs or clear the mind. This is something that breath work does really well too. Okay? So there's all sorts of forms of quiet time and meditation. This could be as simple as walking out in nature and just being at peace with the world without looking at your phone, without being in some emotional turn over what's going on in your life. But we have to have space to get out of our head, let some of these old patterns just let themselves go, so that when we're trying to force all of these positives ones in, they can just nestle right in without compounding on what's already being programmed in your brain. So we have to combine inputs with a safe exit for those other ones, because when we're putting in good inputs that are, as Elliot Hulse calls them, soul goals and not troll goals, they're connected to our soul and what we want and believe, they're going to stay because they are connected to who you are as an individual, as provided from above. So make room and time to let it go. Doesn't have to be all the time, but you need to be doing something that allows you to refresh and wipe the slate clean, shake the cobwebs, so that these positive things that you should be having in your life can just nestle in, grab a hold of that soil, spring roots, and grow to big, beautiful, strong, manifested flowers, right? Now, the last thing that we have to do is always track, record, reassess, and calibrate. And just always check in. Is this working? You have to act like a torpedo or a heat-seeking missile. Both of these things, they always know what their target is, but they're doing constant calculations to make sure, am I on path? Am I on target? Do I need to change course? Sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes you are doing exactly what you need to do, and you just got to keep going. But other times, let's just say, very easy example, diet. You want to lose weight. If you are getting data and analyzing, you want to lose 10 pounds and you've weighed yourself for 6 weeks straight and you haven't lost a single pound, then what you're doing isn't working. But that's okay. That's okay. Because if we are doing all of these good positive things, we're putting good inputs into our brain, we are stacking good repetition through our habits and behaviors, there's other things going on that are going to be pushing you in the right direction and give you some of why you wanted that goal to drop 10 pounds off in the first place. You know, most people don't just want to lose 10 pounds. Most people instead want to look better, feel better, have more confidence, look better naked. So guess what? Your goals may actually change a little bit, but you're going to get what you really want deep down inside by digging into these disciplines, by getting those positive behaviors and repetitions in. At some point along the way, you're going to just realize, shit, I've become this person. You're going to know it. You're going to feel it. You're going to believe it. It's going to be your new subconscious. It's going to be your new whole way of being and existing. And at some point, you're going to realize through your repetition, through your constant input of positive emotions, languages, self-talk, affirmations, that you indeed have positively brainwashed yourself. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was of use to you. Would love it if you hit subscribe, gave a like to the channel. Always love comments. But if you made it this far, thank you so much for being here. Have a championship day.